You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network. Here with a man that should need no introduction. He is the voice of the Kingston Frontenacs. Just called his 2900th game for the franchise, the one and only Jimmy Gilchrist. Jimmy, thanks so much for joining me today.
Hey, no problem at all the time for you.
Perfect. So I figured there would be nobody better to ask about the career that Shane Wright has had with the Kingston Frontenacs than somebody who gets to watch him and call play-by-play for his games every single game. So what have you seen as the biggest improvement in his game from when he was here, granted exceptional status into the league, until his draft year now?
Yeah, I really picked it up, I think, midway through the season, like after the shutdown in January and into early February with all the postponed games and everything. He really had his schedule kind of interrupted a couple of times. Number one there, he got off to kind of a slow start because teams are really keying in on him and double-teaming him and everything, so that kind of slowed him up a bit. Then he went to the World Juniors, and we all know what happened there, so he came back from that. Then the COVID hit again into January, February, so the schedule was interrupted there. So he couldn't really get into a whole system and into a routine there, which really, I think, threw him off, and he wasn't putting up the points that he wanted to. He was very frustrated. But after everything had kind of settled down and he kind of put all that behind him, then he got it really into a groove and he really took off. And he's been that way ever since, and now he's in the top 8 point getters in the league and really showing that he will be the number one overall pick.
Right. So if selected number one overall, like you said, in the NHL draft, what type of player do you think that the team selecting him will get at the next level? And what do you think his skill set on and off the ice will translate to the pro game?
Yeah, on and off the ice, he's just a real pro right now. Like, who's ever coached him off the ice has really done a great job. And the guys on the ice, of course, our coaches have done a great job with him. He's really picked up his defensive work. That's a point that I think our guys really wanted to improve on him, was his work, back-checking, etc., and coming back to take his man. And he's really picked that up, as we say, midway through the season here after the pandemic had hit again into January, February. Ever since then, he's really picked that up. So he's got a great two-way game now as compared to back in October even.
From the scouting report of Jimmy Gilchrist, what do you think is his best skill set that's going to transition well as he goes to the pro game?
I think just the transition to what he's playing with, and he makes other guys around him better. He makes that line better with Chromiak up front. He did have Wisdom, but here Friday night they changed it up, and now he's got Edmonds over on that right side. So he makes them better players as well, and they can pick up a lot of points just playing with him, and I think they just feel comfortable with him out there as well.
How well do you think Shane's handled the pressure and the enormous expectations that were put on him going into the season? Seems like more of a reserved, humble guy, but being the number one overall prospect for the NHL and also having him projected in the 170-point range coming into this year, which maybe had been unfair with all the situation going on with the OHL not playing last year and things like that. So how has he dealt with all that while still being able to be a great, successful teammate on the ice and helping this Kingston team as they go forward into the playoffs?
Yeah, I think at the start of the year he was kind of overwhelmed by that. Everybody was on him about himself being the number one draft pick. He wanted to talk about the team more, and he was really frustrated at that a lot were talking to him about himself and being number one, the pressure of being number one, etc., and on and on and on about him. And he wanted to more concentrate and talk about the team. He's a real team guy. That's why he's captain and really wanted to be the leader there and talk about the team and why he's on such a good team, not just him alone. He can't do it all himself, so he really built up his teammates that way as well.
And what are you expecting going into the OHL playoffs this year for Shane? And this team they're loaded up front. You know, like you mentioned, guys like Edmonds, Frasca, Chromiak. You know, just to name a few. They've got a lot of guys that are going to reach high point totals this year. What do you think is kind of what they're expecting going into the playoffs, and what do you think that he's kind of expecting going into it as well?
Be interesting because this will be his first OHL playoffs. He wasn't in the playoffs in his rookie year, so it'll be interesting to see just how he handles that. But I think going by the last couple of weeks here or so, even the last month, we've been in kind of that playoff mode. We've been in a real playoff atmosphere, playing teams above us like in North Bay and also in Hamilton as well. Got to find ways of beating them. And Oshawa, Ottawa, we've played them quite a bit here over the season. We played them 12 times each, so seen a lot of them, so you know what to expect into the playoffs. So I think that's really going to help him in the long run.
And last question, if you're a betting man, I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you think we've seen the last of Shane Wright in an OHL uniform, or do you think maybe he gets one more crack at it next season, even if he is selected number one overall in the upcoming NHL draft?
I would be shocked if he was back with us next year. It would be something really kind of untoward would have to happen if he's back with us. I think he's going to go number one overall, and enjoy seeing him in the OHL right now because you won't see him here next year.
Legendary voice of the Kingston Frontenacs, Jimmy Gilchrist. Thank you so much for doing this, sir.
Thank you.